Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside. Let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
What if everything about the 2025 cosmic shift and the promise of a new human isn't just wrong, but is designed to keep you waiting for a salvation that never arrives?
That is a heavy question to start with.
It's his.
But looking at what we're about to unpack today, it feels like the only question that really matters. Because, if you've been anywhere near the spiritual or, let's say, alternative side of the internet lately,
Oh, you can't miss it.
you can't. It's not whispers anymore. It's a full-on megaphone.
Megaphone. It feels more like a siren at this point. And
Mhm.
it's moved beyond just, oh, times are changing. We are way past that.
Yeah.
The narrative has gotten very, very specific. It's the event is coming.
It's here.
It's here.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about some vague, far-off future. We have dates. We have a deadline.
Right. And that's where the mechanism of the trap, really starts to click into place. The minute you set a date, you create this incredible sense of urgency. You create drama.
And the date we're talking about, according to the source material we're putting under the microscope today, is this very specific window, 2025 to 2027.
The transition period.
So let's get into this. Our deep dive is focused on this whole new human narrative, particularly the version being pushed by astrologer Pam Gregory, among others. The core idea is that humanity is crossing a kind of cosmic finish line.
A graduation.
Exactly. And to give it some weight, they've attached it to the end of the Kali Yuga. But before we even get into the astrology, I want to stick with the psychology of the deadline. Why 2025? Why do these movements always need a calendar?
Well, it's the perfect cure for what I'd call apocalypse fatigue, isn't it? I mean, we've all lived through Y2K. We remember the 2012 Mayan calendar predictions. People get tired of waiting for a world-changing event that never quite arrives.
So you have to refresh the brand.
You have to refresh the timeline. You have to come out and say, okay, look, that last one, that was just a dress rehearsal. But this time, this is the real show. It re-engages that whole anticipation loop in the brain.
Okay, so let's look at the historical anchor they use, the Kali Yuga. This immediately gives the whole thing a feeling of ancient, profound gravity.
Right, it's a concept from Hindu cosmology. It's the age of strife, of darkness, of moral decay, the bottom of the cycle.
Which, to be fair, is a pretty accurate description of how it feels to read the news most days.
Oh, absolutely. It's a vibe. If you look at geopolitics, the economy, just the general mood, you might think, yeah, age of strife kind of nails it.
It matches the feeling. But this is where the deconstruction has to begin. Because in the traditional Hindu texts, like the Puranas, the Kali Yuga is supposed to be 432,000 years long.
432,000 years.
And we are supposedly just a few thousand years into it.
So we have quite a bit of strife left on the clock then.
We have hundreds of thousands of years of it left. But, that doesn't really sell online courses, does it? It doesn't sell Ascension coaching.
No, it's not a great marketing hook. So the narrative we're looking at, it uses a different kind of math. It's often based on more modern interpretations, people like Sri Yukteswar, that dramatically shorten the whole cycle but down to 12,000 years.
Which conveniently places the end of all the misery right now.
I mean, talk about an appealing sales pitch. Tired of the struggle? Great news. The 12,000-year lease on cosmic suffering just expired. It taps into that deep, deep desire for a global reset button.
But they don't just leave it at ancient mysticism. They need something that sounds more, technical.
Scientific.
Yeah, scientific. And that's where the astrology comes in. They're pointing to very specific planetary events to justify why 2025 is the year.
Okay, so what are the big ones?
Well, you've got Pluto moving into Aquarius, which is a huge generational shift. You have a very rare convergence of Saturn and Neptune, both at 0 degrees of Aries.
The very beginning of the zodiac.
Yeah.
A symbolic new start.
Exactly. And then they throw in some other stuff. Solar cycle peaks, and my personal favorite, something called a galactic current sheet transit.
A galactic current sheet transit. That sounds like something you'd hear in a sci-fi movie.
Captain, we're approaching the galactic current sheet. Shields up. It sounds incredibly scientific, and that is absolutely the point. It's designed to sound like astrophysics.
Is it a real thing?
It is a real term, yes. In plasma physics, it relates to the magnetic field structure of our heliosphere. But The way they're using it here, it's just word salad. It's complete pseudoscience. They're claiming this magnetic structure is carrying like light codes or consciousness upgrading frequencies
Yeah.
to Earth.
So it's the classic technique. You take a real scientific term, you strip it of all its actual meaning and context, and then you just stuff it full of your metaphysical promises.
That's the playbook.
But, I really want to touch on the metaphor they use for all this chaos, because they're not actually promising it's going to be easy. They use this very specific image, whitewater rafting.
Ugh, I can't stand this metaphor.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? I think it's actually incredibly clever.
It's clever because it's manipulative. Whitewater rafting reframes mortal danger as a fun weekend activity. It suggests the chaos is, a curated adventure.
Well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? If your life is falling apart right now, you lose your job, the economy tanks, there's a war on the news, the narrative says, don't panic, that's just the white water.
Right.
It frames the disaster not as a disaster, but as turbulence and excitement. It tells you that you're not drowning. You're in a theme park ride.
It's an anxiety laundering scheme. It reframes genuine fear as entertainment. I'll give them that. It's a powerful psychological tool. But let's look at the actual mechanism of prediction here. This reliance on planetary alignments. Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn in Aries. It's a textbook case of what we call pattern confirmation bias.
Okay, break that down for us, because a lot of people check their horoscopes. It seems harmless. What's the difference between that and what's happening here?
The difference is the claim of causality, the pretense of a physical mechanism. Astrology functions by looking backward almost exclusively.
Okay.
You take a big historical event, let's say the French Revolution, then you look at where the planets were at that time and you say, aha, look, Pluto was in Aquarius, therefore Pluto in Aquarius causes revolution.
So you find a pattern after the fact.
You impose a pattern, then you just wait for Pluto to go back there, which takes about 248 years, and you predict another revolution.
It's a correlation, not a cause.
It is barely a correlation. It is a narrative overlay. Pluto is a ball of ice and rock billions of miles away. The gravitational force it exerts on you is less than the force exerted by the person standing next to you. There is no known physical mechanism by which it could cause you to overthrow your government or, as we'll get into, change your DNA.
But the story is just so compelling. This idea that we're all moving from density and fear, that heavy feeling you get in your chest, to light and heart-centered empowerment. I mean, who doesn't want to sign up for that?
It is the ultimate promise. But here is the danger, and this is the setup for what I call the empowerment illusion. The story tells you that you are becoming powerful, that you're shifting into this new enlightened state. But what's the trigger? What's causing this empowerment? Is it your own hard work? Is it you reading, learning, building community?
No, it's the stars. It's the galactic current sheet hitting us.
Exactly. Your salvation is being delivered by external celestial mechanics. You are not saving yourself, the calendar is saving you. And that is a profound trap. It breeds passivity.
Yeah.
You just sit and wait for the energies to arrive instead of actually doing the work yourself.
And it gets even stickier, doesn't it, when we move from the patterns in the sky to the biology in our own bodies? Because the narrative isn't just saying the world is changing, it's saying we are changing physically.
Yeah. And I know you've been waiting to get into this part.
Oh, this is where we have to be just ruthlessly clear. Because the claims being made about human genetics here, they're not just wrong. They are aggressively, willfully anti-science. It's predation on people who might not remember their high school biology class.
So let's dive into the biology of the so-called new human.
Yeah.
The core claim is that we're all undergoing a biological metamorphosis. And the headline, the big promise. We're moving from 23 pairs of chromosomes to reactivating a 24th chromosome.
Right. They call it the restoration of the divine blueprint. The story is that we used to be these incredible, multi-dimensional beings with 24 pairs of chromosomes.
Like other great eights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we were somehow downgraded or limited. And now, thanks to these cosmic energies, that dormant 24th chromosome is finally coming back online.
And this will turn us into what exactly? The X-Men.
Pretty much. They use phrases like densifying to light or becoming silica-based instead of carbon-based.
Okay, let's just pause right there. Silica-based. Silica is sand, it's quartz, it's glass, it's what they make computer chips out of.
Right. And this is where a freshman chemistry textbook just completely demolishes the entire premise. Carbon is the backbone of all known life for a reason. It's incredibly versatile. It can form these long, complex, stable chains that become proteins, DNA, fats.
All the building blocks.
All of them. Silicon, which is right below carbon on the periodic table, is much heavier and more rigid. It just doesn't form those complex, stable chains at the temperatures and pressures we have on Earth.
So if my DNA somehow transmuted to be silica-based, what would actually happen to me?
You'd be a rock, literally. You would not be a light being. You would be a statue. The idea that a living, breathing mammal is going to spontaneously swap out its fundamental carbon structure for silicon it's not just impossible, it's incoherent. It's just using words that sound futuristic and cool.
Okay, point taken. We're not turning into the Fantastic Fours thing. But let's go back to the chromosome claim. The 24th chromosome, that sounds a little more plausible to a layperson. We've 23 pairs. Why not 24?
Because we know exactly what happened to the 24th pair. And what's amazing is that it's a story that actually proves human evolution in a really elegant way, not this galactic restoration fantasy.
Okay, lay it out for us, the real story.
All right, so humans have 46 chromosomes, which is 23 pairs. Our closest living relatives, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, they all have 48 chromosomes, 24 pairs.
Okay, so looking at that, I can see where the conspiracy theory comes from. Hey, we're missing 2. Somebody must have taken them to limit us.
Exactly. It looks like a deficit. It looks like we were shortchanged. But genetics is a forensic science. We can examine the evidence. If we evolved from a common ancestor with those 8s, we didn't just lose a massive chunk of our genetic code. You could just delete an entire chromosome and expect the organism to survive. It had to go somewhere.
So where did it go?
It didn't go anywhere. It fused.
Fused.
Yeah. Imagine you have 2 separate books of an encyclopedia. Let's call them Volume 2A and Volume 2B. Those represent 2 separate chromosomes in our ape ancestors. At some point, after our lineage split off, those 2 books were basically slammed together and taped shut to make one giant book. That is our chromosome 2.
That's a great analogy, but how do we know that? Can we actually see the tape?
We can literally see the tape at the genetic level. That's what's so incredible. Chromosomes have protective caps on their ends called telomeres. Think of them like the little plastic tips on your shoelaces.
Right, they stop them from fraying.
Exactly. And they also have a structure in the middle called a centromere, which helps them divide properly. So a normal chromosome has 1 centromere in the middle and telomeres at both ends.
Okay, I'm with you.
When we look at human chromosome 2, we find telomere sequences, those end caps, buried right in the middle of the chromosome, where they shouldn't be. And we find the remnants of a second, deactivated centromere. It is the genetic equivalent of finding 2 book spines glued together. It's smoking gun proof that 2 ancestral chromosomes fused end to end.
Wow, so the missing 24th chromosome isn't missing at all. It's already there, we're using it, it's just been reorganized.
Precisely. We have all the same genetic information, we just rearranged the filing cabinet. To reactivate it by splitting it apart again, which is what this narrative implies, wouldn't make you a superhuman. It would almost certainly cause catastrophic genetic instability.
Yeah.
It would be a de-evolution. That fusion event is one of the key things that makes us human.
And of course, they always bring up junk DNA. That's a classic trope. The idea that 90% of our DNA is just useless filler, and that it's actually secret galactic DNA waiting for a signal.
Yeah, junk DNA is probably the worst term scientists ever came up with. We've been trying to get rid of it for decades.
Yeah.
It's non-coding DNA. It doesn't build proteins, true. But what we've learned, especially since the Human Genome Project was completed, is that this so-called junk is the regulatory system. It's the software. It's the switchboard that tells the coding genes when to turn on and when to turn off.
So it's not dormant at all.
It's not dormant. It's incredibly busy running the whole show. If your non-coding DNA were actually waiting for a galactic signal, you wouldn't be alive. There's no evidence of alien inserts or galactic code in our genome. It's all terrestrial. It's all beautifully, messily evolutionary.
But they sell it with such compelling metaphors. I have to bring up the dragonfly analogy because I'll admit, even I felt a little pull when I read it.
It is a beautiful image. I'll give them the poetry.
Right. The dragonfly nymph lives its whole life underwater in the mud. It scuttles around. It has no concept that a world of air and light and flight even exists. Then one day, some biological trigger goes off, it climbs a reed, its back cracks open, and this entirely new creature emerges and flies away. It enters a whole new dimension. And the narrative says, that's us. We are the nymphs in the mud, and 2025 is the reed we're climbing.
It's powerful. It hits you right in the hope center of your brain. But it's an analogy. It is not a biological reality for human beings. Dragonflies undergo metamorphosis. It's their evolutionary strategy. Mammals do not. We grow, we develop, we age. We do not liquefy our internal organs and reconstitute ourselves into beings of light.
It's what you'd call channeled pseudoscience.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's borrowing from figures like Kryon, who claim to channel cosmic entities, and dressing it up as evolutionary biology. And it's so dangerous because it makes people wait for a physical transformation that will never, ever come, distracting them from the real psychological and emotional work they actually could be doing.
Which brings us to the next layer of the story, the why. If we are limited or broken, how did we get that way? The narrative doesn't just invent a future, it has to rewrite the past to make it all fit.
This is the galactic intervention myth. And this is where the story shifts from just being bad science to being pure science fiction.
The claim is audacious. 100,000 years ago, some group of galactic beings intervened in our evolution. They came down and spliced our chromosomes to limit our power. They put a governor on our spiritual engine.
Right. And now, in 2025, that genetic limitation is finally being reversed.
This is 100% speculative fiction being sold as historical fact. It's a direct echo of the ancient astronaut theories from people like Zecharia Sitchin, which have been thoroughly and repeatedly debunked by every credible archaeologist, historian, and geneticist on the planet.
But why is it such a sticky idea? Why do people want to believe that aliens tinkered with our DNA?
Because it solves the problem of human nature. It absolves us of responsibility. Think about it. If we are the product of natural selection, evolving from primates, then our flaws, our violence, our tribalism, our greed, that's just part of the deal. It's messy. It's animal.
What if we were tampered with?
Then our flaws aren't our fault. We're victims of a cosmic sabotage. It makes us a special project that went wrong, rather than just another species that evolved on Earth.
It also makes us feel special. We're not just evolved apes. We're a galactic experiment, a chosen species being managed from on high. It gives us a sense of cosmic importance that, Darwin's theory doesn't really offer.
Exactly. But let's bring it back to the science. The out-of-Africa model, mitochondrial DNA studies. We can trace human migration and our genetic history with incredible precision. There is zero evidence, a complete absence of evidence, for some kind of artificial genetic bottleneck or external splicing event 100,000 years ago. There are no starship parts in the fossil record. It's a fantasy.
So, okay, we have a manufactured future, the 2025 Ascension, that is built on top of a manufactured past, the alien intervention. But what about the present? What happens if you don't buy into the program? What if you don't ascend?
Ah, yes. This is where the love and light narrative takes a surprisingly dark turn. This is the fear-mongering part. They introduce the fork in the road, the bifurcation of reality.
Dual timelines. I see this all over social media.
It's everywhere. The story goes that reality itself is splitting into two separate streams. Timeline A is the organic path. It's 5D, heart-centered, natural, telepathy, all the good stuff.
And timeline B?
Timeline B is the synthetic path. That's AI, transhumanism, Neuralink, getting a chip in your brain. It's the technology trap.
And the warning is pretty stark. They say if you take that tech shortcut, if you merge with AI, you are literally severing your connection to your soul, to the universe. You get left behind.
It's a classic cult recruitment tactic. It's the harvest. You're either the wheat that gets saved or the chaff that gets burned. You're either with us on the Ascension train or you're stuck on the doomed timeline. But we have to pause here and just appreciate the massive, glaring irony of it all.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Where are people getting this message? Where are they watching these videos and reading these posts?
On their iPhones.
Yeah.
On YouTube. Via algorithms on Instagram.
Precisely. We call it ironical sovereignty. You have these influencers sitting in front of their 4K webcams under professional ring lights, editing their videos on powerful computers, uploading them through fiber optic cables to global server farms, all to deliver a message warning you that technology is a soul trap.
They're using the very machine they're telling you to be terrified of.
And it works because it taps into a real, legitimate anxiety. We all have some level of concern about AI and transhumanism. People are genuinely worried that things like ChatGPT or brain implants could erode what it means to be human.
So the narrative is basically hijacking a valid ethical debate. It's taking the real question of how much technology is too much and turning it into a black and white spiritual ultimatum.
It strips out all the nuance. Instead of a thoughtful conversation about ethics and regulation, it just says if you use AI, you're on the demonic timeline. It forces a binary choice where a complex spectrum actually exists.
And that creates a powerful us versus them dynamic. If I'm on the organic timeline, I'm good, I'm safe. But my neighbor who's excited about AI, they're lost, they're doomed. It isolates you from others and makes you even more dependent on the influencers who are feeding you the correct timeline information.
So what's the alternative they offer to this scary tech future? It's heart coherence. Now, We need to be careful here because this is another case of co-opting a real concept.
Right, heart coherence is a real term. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one.
It is. The Heart Math Institute has done some fascinating research. They've shown that when you consciously slow your breathing and focus on positive emotions, the pattern of your heart rate variability, or HRV, becomes more orderly and sine wave-like. That's coherence.
It has measurable benefits.
Right.
Yeah.
It can lower the stress hormone cortisol, improve cognitive function. It's a real documented physiological state linked to the vagus nerve. That much is true.
But
Yeah.
there's always a but with this stuff.
But the narrative takes that simple physiological fact that mindful breathing can calm you down, and it extrapolates it into the stratosphere. They claim it creates electromagnetic quantum links to cosmic creation.
That's the leap?
That's the leap. They claim that by making your heart coherent, you are literally altering the fabric of space-time to manifest a new reality. They say your heart's magnetic field is communicating with the galactic current sheet, and that is where we leave science and biology behind and enter the world of quantum woo.
So managing your stress is real.
Yes. Using your heart's magnetic field to steer the galaxy is not.
So with all this, the bad science, the rewritten history, the fear, why does it work so well? Why do so many smart, otherwise rational people fall for this? It can't just be gullibility. There's a structure to it. It feels familiar.
It feels familiar because it's running on a very old piece of software. It's what we call the eschatological narrative blueprint. That's just a fancy way of saying it follows the exact same script as virtually every end times religion in human history. It's a formula.
Okay, what are the steps of the formula?
Step 1, crisis diagnosis. You have to start by telling people the world is fundamentally broken. The source material calls the current era dense, patriarchal, run by old gray beards. They point to the astrology Pluto in Capricorn as the symbol of all our crumbling institutions.
Check. I mean, everyone feels that on some level. The world feels broken, the rent is too high, the system feels rigged, so we nod along.
Step 2, announce an imminent transition, the 2025 convergence. You have to have a date. Without a specific date, it's just a nice philosophy. With a date, it becomes an urgent movement.
Okay, step 3.
The transformation promise. This is where you offer the solution. And it can't just be, you'll be happier. It has to be a total upgrade, a biological one. You'll get telepathy, a light body, you'll never get sick again. It promises to solve the fundamental problem of human frailty.
And the final step? Step 4.
Agency activation. This is the real hook. After telling you that everything is determined by the stars, you then tell the individual, but you are a powerful creator, you get to choose your timeline. But only if you follow the program. Only if you focus on your heart and ignore all the 3D chaos.
It's a perfect psychological soothing mechanism. It gives chaos a purpose. If the economy crashes, it's not a result of greed or bad policy. It's the old structures dissolving to make way for the new. It makes terrifying events feel necessary, even positive.
The source material even mentions a specific neurological trick they advocate. Remap nervousness to excitement.
I saw that. It sounds like something out of a pop psychology book.
It's a real cognitive behavioral therapy technique called anxiety reappraisal. And it works to an extent. Anxiety and excitement are both high arousal states. Your heart races, you get cortisol, so it's often easier to convince your brain you're excited than to try and become calm. But here, they're weaponizing it. They're telling you to look at the potential collapse of global supply chains and tell yourself, ooh, this is so exciting, the shift is finally here.
It reframes survival anxiety as an anticipatory thrill for the apocalypse.
Exactly. And then there's the time perception thing. Everyone says it. Time feels like it's speeding up. The narrative hijacks this feeling and says it's because of Saturn and Pisces, or the density of the planet is thinning.
But time isn't actually speeding up, is it?
No. The rotation of the Earth isn't changing. Our atomic clocks are working just fine.
So why does a year feel like a month now?
It's a subjective illusion, and it's mostly about age and stress. Research shows that when you're young, every experience is new, so your brain is constantly writing new data. A summer feels like an eternity.
But when you're older?
When you're 45 and you're in the same routine, your brain has seen it all before. It stops recording every little detail. It compresses the file so the movie of your life feels like it's playing on fast forward. Add chronic stress to that, which messes with our perception of time, and you get this universal feeling. It's not the cosmos accelerating, it's just your brain being tired and overloaded.
Okay, so let's get to the so what. Why does any of this matter? If it gives people a bit of hope in a crazy world, who are we to be the buzzkills?
We have to talk about the economics of hope.
Yeah,
Because this isn't a nonprofit, it's a business model.
follow the money.
Look at the products and services sold alongside these grand cosmic predictions. You have astrological readings, personal timing consultations, special earthing products to help you ground the new frequencies, and endless coaching packages to help you navigate the turbulent transition.
It commodifies hope. The turbulence they predict creates the anxiety, and then they sell you the cure for that anxiety.
It's a perfect feedback loop. I feel anxious about the shift. Pay the astrologer to tell me I'll be okay. The date passes, nothing happens. Now I feel anxious and confused. Pay the coach to explain what went wrong. It's a subscription model for salvation.
For me, though, the darkest part isn't the money. It's what you call the empowerment illusion. It's the victim blaming.
The dark underbelly of you create your own reality.
Exactly. If you truly believe you are the sole creator of your reality and that you choose your timeline with your thoughts, what happens if you get cancer? What happens if you lose your house? What happens if you don't magically ascend in 2027?
Then it must be your fault. You didn't hold the frequency high enough. You didn't do enough heart coherence exercises. You let the 3D fear get to you.
Precisely. It takes huge systemic problems. Economic inequality, environmental collapse, broken healthcare systems, and it reframes them as individual spiritual failures. It keeps you staring at your own navel, blaming yourself, instead of looking at the systems of power that are actually creating the problems. It's the ultimate tool for political neutering.
And that leads us to the final crushing contradiction, the paradox of sovereignty.
The ultimate trap.
The entire narrative screams sovereignty, be your own master, unplug from the matrix. And then, in the very next breath, it tells you that your entire destiny, your biological evolution, is completely dependent on the position of Saturn and a galactic current sheet you have zero control over.
So you're told to be free by submitting to a rigid cosmic determinism.
It's freedom through submission. It's the illusion of control handed to you by the stars.
So where does that leave us? After taking all of this apart, is there anything of value left in the wreckage? Or is it all just dangerous nonsense?
Well, we're skeptics, not cynics. And I think if you look hard enough, you can find a kernel of truth buried in here.
I agree. I think the most valid piece is the caution around technology. The warning about a transhumanist shortcut comes from a real place. We should be having a serious conversation about merging our brains with corporate technology. We should question the loss of our connection to the natural world.
Absolutely. The intuition that organic human connection and living in tune with nature is probably better for our well-being than living in a VR headset. That's a valid and important intuition. The narrative is right to warn us about losing our humanity to the machine.
But we don't need to invent false genetics or cosmic intervention stories to justify that intuition.
No. You don't need a fictional 24th chromosome to know that a walk in the woods is good for your soul. You don't need a made-up galactic history to understand that building a strong community is essential. Pseudoscience is not a prerequisite for being human.
And most importantly, you don't need to wait for 2025 or 2027.
That is the final piece of the trap, the waiting. It encourages you to put your life, your agency, your power on hold until the shift arrives. But real human evolution doesn't work that way. It happens through the choices we make, through the ethics we decide to live by. It happens when you choose empathy over fear today, not because the planets are in the right position, but because you simply decided to be a decent person.
You don't need a galactic current sheet to be kind.
And you don't need to wait for a timeline to split to be free.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. If the real trap is the promise that true freedom arrives soon, in 2025 or 2027 or the next cycle, what is the one belief you've been holding about a future awakening that you're ready to release right now, today?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative, deconstruct the dogma, see the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.
Thank you for joining us.